I just had a thought that I wanted to explore. I just saw something, rather. It wasn't exactly a thought. I saw how mankind are on a number of different paths, and the major path it arises directly from the self-definition. And so depending on how you answer the question, who am I, that puts you on one or another of these paths. And I'm hoping we're all doing well with respecting everyone's free will and their right to choose their own path, even when it's one that just horrifies us. There's a separating and a sorting out going on now that will take care of that for us, and those that are rising in vibration will rise up above, and there will be a separation, even though it's all one. That's the other side of every coin in the cosmos. It's all one. Nonetheless, in manifestation, it's apparently not. We have appearances and experiences that are available to us of separation. Cuddles, honey. Could you play with something that's not so noisy right now? Huh? You know? Okay, so I'm going to put a link with this one on a project called 2045 or something like that. And it's one of the shocking ones. It's one where the people are defining themselves as their body. Consciousness is emanating from or residing in the brain. And it's the transhumanist thing, the techno solution to immortality. And it's amazing. It's truly amazing. But you can see it. If you just accept their perspective, you can see how this path makes so much sense. Now, it doesn't to me. We can look at all of the perspectives, and that's really good. I think that's one of the gifts of heart. It's like being multilingual. We're multi-perspective. And so we can adopt the way our brother or sister is seeing something and have some understanding instead of condemnation and judgment. Just because it's not your way doesn't mean it's not their way, I think is what I'm trying to say here. I'm really glad that the galaxy, the universe, is taking care of this separating out, this sorting that has been prophesied for eons, I guess, I don't know, among the Maya and those in the know about these really long cycles, these tens of thousands of years cycles. This has been expected. We've been in the Kali Yuga. It's been a very dark time, and for multiple thousands of years. But not anymore. That's over. And so there's a separating and a sorting going on. I want to say, live with integrity, and things will just take care of themselves. It's not up to us to worry about anything. And it's not up to us to try to convince other people that their way is wrong and our way is right, because that's ridiculous, really. That's so 3D. That's so polarized, don't you see? And we're above that now. We're recognizing, finally, our multidimensionality. We're not just limited to 3D. We were convinced that we were, and for a very long time. we bought into it. But it depends on how you define self, which way you're going in life. And so no matter how hard people from different perspectives try to convince one another, they don't realize that absent a change in self-definition, you're not going to make any progress. Everything rests on our self-definition. And that's why I say it's important to know nothing until you've got that sorted out, to stick with the emptiness. And Muji is one of the best ones, and maybe Gangaji, to take you into the who am I question. We've got to become good observers too, you know, turning our focus within. There are some basic concepts, if you will, such as above, so below, as within, so without. And you can say as without, so within, because what we're seeing in the world, quote unquote, outside, is a reflection of what's inside. And so if we want peace in the world, you make peace in the self. What else can you do? And we've got a lot of toxic beliefs. Just like we're shedding toxic foods, and we're learning how important it is to at least bless your water, if not drink purified or distilled or spring water. There are toxic beliefs, such as I am the body. I mean, to me, that's a toxic belief. To someone else, it's not. It just depends where someone is and what their purpose is, what they're doing. And it's not up to you and me to rule on that. You know, that's between them and Source. So, the less fear we have, the better. It just came so clear to me that these different paths all rest on the foundation of the self-definition. If you define yourself as the mind, that's also, from my perspective, that's also very challenging. The mind is definitely something that can be messed with and misled, and if you've got someone of extraordinarily high intelligence, they can play with you and you'll never know it. You won't know you've been played with. And so one of the reasons I've chosen not to trust mind, 3D mind, okay, there's a higher intelligence that's cosmic. Right now I'm talking about the brain-mind complex, that which is most functional in 3D. Now, it's just a story, okay? It's just a story, but it's one I've heard in several places, and I can see how it could be the case that mankind was far more developed, and all the texts and things that will tell you that have been either burned or tucked away in private collections, the Vatican Library and so on. Mankind was highly developed, and we've been here, you know, far longer than the powers that were want us to believe. In order to minimize us, we're supposed to believe that we came up from apes and we've only been here a few thousand years and all that kind of nonsense. I hope you've thrown that overboard by now. So, let's just say, just for fun, that we were 12-stranded DNA beings that were consciously aware of their divinity. At some point, the story is told that there was a war in heaven, if you will. A great war was fought over the planet and mankind, and who would control that. And so enter the powers that be. Being very dark oriented on the left-handed path, they were willing to rape, murder, rob, kill, do horrendous, horrendous things. And in the end, they won. The side of the light that was fighting in defense of the light here wasn't willing to stoop to those levels. And so, perhaps by a force field thrown around the planet, who knows how, multiple mechanisms, no doubt, our DNA was stripped. Well, this also strips a measure of our intelligence. We were super intelligent beings, let's say, with 12 strands. We're pretty darn good with 2. But I'd say that's because of who and what we really are, because of the being, the consciousness here, not necessarily the form it's working through. Okay. So what happened then was other highly, highly intelligent beings did this. They didn't lose any of their intelligence, and they wanted mankind easily manipulated. Okay, they had their time with that. And it's been really challenging. It's been really hard with dark ruling the place, you know? In the last, 1,000 years or so, there's been an illusion of a freedom that wasn't real, and especially since the founding of America, of the United States of America. America's huge. It includes Canada, Mexico, South America, and all the rest. So, you know, we get a little arrogant in the U.S. sometimes by saying America, as if Canadians aren't Americans too, you know? Let's try to correct that. So the U.S. was founded with such great hope, and it was a brand new idea, the divine right to be free, of any divine rights at all. Those were all vested in the rulers and the kings before. It was a brand new idea. And it was a good idea. It got thoroughly taken over. Any place where you have a central bank has been taken over. And if you'll notice, the places that are being warred against don't have a central bank. Syria, Libya, I think North Korea. I'm not sure exactly, but, you know, banking and money is the tool and the implement of control rather than prison bars. And so people have been fooled into thinking that they're free when they're not. It's getting darker and darker here in America. You know, there's talk of taking our guns, and that's absolutely a right given to us by the Constitution, and all the rights given to us by the Constitution have been taken, usually by executive order. And it just keeps getting darker and darker. I don't know when the slide will cease, but all we can do is deal with our now and deal with ourself. So let's not get all worked up over expanding our reach beyond where it rightfully needs to be. There's a great deal of freedom and peace that we can have in the midst of, I don't care what kind of chaos, and other people being filled with terror and the rest of it. We don't have to go there. We can walk what amounts to, well, I don't know if it's a separate timeline. That's not the best way to say it. For a while, we aren't separated out yet. I'd say in the next several generations, we'll see that separation, so that those who are on the path, the left-handed path, as it's been called. That's probably not a good idea to call it that. The walking the path of power and exploring evil, they won't be able to incarnate with us. Our frequencies are rising. Those of us who are discovering that at our core is unconditional love, who are merging and surrendering into that, will just leave the other behind. It's a been there and done that kind of a thing. And that's really great. But now we're in the sorting out phase. And now it'll be important because we'll be able to see very confused people and people who are walking the dark path. We'll be able to see them and what they're going through. And we're telepathic. We're all connected. We're quantum entangled, if nothing else. And so I think it's important to make your heart your home base. And all of us, as we anchor there, we can't really go wrong. I mean, you can't go wrong anyway, but by being anchored in heart, we touch bases with the flow that comes from source. We're source beings. We shine best when we're in heart. And that means your center. Again, it's not an organ, it's not a chakra, it's not even 3D, but it's something we can access by focusing in and on the center of our chest, our torso. So, maybe that's all. No, I don't want to leave it there. Okay, so I was starting to say that there are still those who have the full capacity of their DNA, while mankind doesn't yet. And their playground is mind. Their arrogance is based on their intellectual capacity and all the wonderful things they can do with that. And that's fine. That's a great playground. It's just one that, with 2 strands of DNA, we're not equipped to play on that playground yet. That's like the deep end of the pool, and for a little bit, it's best we remain in the shallow end. I have found this in, if you want to touch bases with this kind of mentality, oh, what is her name? There's a lady who says she doesn't channel. She's got a different, and I believe her, she's got a different way of receiving information. And it's highly intellectual. She seems perfectly wonderful. And her information may or may not be right. I'll put her name with the transcript. It's not coming to me right now. But it's too highly intellectual for, you know, most of mankind to sort through. And so I refuse to put any trust in it. I don't need mind. That's the thing. We don't need the 3D mind. It's useful in 3D, but that's not what we are. We're not these bodies. We're just not. And for those of us who are aware that what we are is consciousness, we don't have need of the body except to have an experience here in 3D where the frequencies are so very low and slow that things appear to be solid when they're not. Did you know that no 2 atoms ever touch? Nothing ever touches anything, even the atoms in your body. It's amazing what we're finding at the atomic and subatomic levels, what we're finding with quantum physics in the world of the impossibly small. And Nassim Haramein is a name that comes up often. He is one who has, again, I've been talking about the foundation belief being, who am I? And based on your answer to that question, you take a different path than others. He takes physics at its foundational beliefs and tears them apart and shows them where, at the very core, assumptions, they may have gone wrong. Putting in things like a cosmological constant and playing games with mathematics, you know, taking the infinity out of all of the equations just because it's too much and they don't want to have to deal with it. It took them in the direction that it took them. But now is a time when we're getting back to these basics and we're taking another look and we're realizing we don't have to rely on the scientists to tell us what reality is. We can consult with them, you know, we can take what they've learned and consider it. We are divine. At our core, we are the Godhead, emanations of that. And we have the direct connect to Source. It's our very being. It's who and what we are. It's all of these false beliefs that have been shoved into our minds to program us, that have split us off from the soul. If they could do that, they would. But you can't lose who and what you are. You are that. It's because we're divine and we're so powerful that we can play these other games by taking up other beliefs and create what amounts to false worlds. Well, that's okay, especially if we know what we're doing when we're doing it. When we have forgotten the whole point of the thing and when we're more being manipulated than not, it's time to call a halt, and I think Source has done that. This is the appropriate end of the cycle. I'm going to suggest that much, if not all, of the fear that you're feeling is from the dark side. They're the ones that are terrified, and they're doing what they can to project that on us. It's a very low frequency, and it will cut you off from Source and from your heart and from who and what you are. Frozen in fear is a good expression of what fear does. So no more running, friends. No more running from anything. I mean, what's the worst they can do to you? They can kill you, right? And then you ascend into divinity. This is no harm. This is no harm at all. You can't be hurt, you can't be killed, you can't be touched. Who and what you really are, you're infinite and you're eternal. And as we lay claim to this, we're remembering who we are. And instead of having a path chosen for us based on our programming, we get to choose. We get to choose what beliefs we opt in and opt out of. And so I really do suggest we all get very straight on who am I, and do the best we can. Spend some time with Muji. You can take any of his vids, or I have a playlist. Byron Katie is very good too. If working with thoughts is at all an issue to you, or a challenge, spend some time with Byron Katie. I also have a Byron Katie playlist. I have some goodies for you there. And when you just want a general pick-me-up, go for the NDE playlist. That will give you a taste of home and remind you who and what you are, where you came from, and what it feels like to be in divine love. Namaste.